On February 19, 2026, a man named Prince Emmanuel Omore stood in a quiet courtroom in Akwa, Ibom State to hear his fate. He was once a pastor, a man people were told to trust and respect. But on this day, the judge, Honorable Justice Gabriel Bassey, did not see a man of God. He saw a killer. The judge looked at the evidence and the laws of Nigeria and delivered a heavy sentence: death by hanging. This was the final end for a man who had used a church as a cover for a terrible crime. The victim was Gabriel Bassey Edward, a 23-year-old university student. Gabriel was a young man with a big future, but he was killed by the very person he tried to help. This story is not just about a murder, it is about how a bad person can hide behind a good title. It shows us that we must be careful about who we let into our homes and our lives. The story starts in the city of Uyo. Gabriel Bassey Edward was a student at the University of Uyo, studying to become a civil engineer. He was a hard worker and very kind. After his mother died in 2019, Gabriel and his brother Emmanuel had to take care of the building she left behind. Their mother had wanted the building to be a school, but for now, the brothers lived in one part of it. In July 2020, they decided to rent out the other half of the hall to a church called Living Faith Church, also known as Winners Chapel. They thought having a church next door would be safe and peaceful. The church sent a man named Prince Emmanuel Omore to be the resident pastor. At first, everything seemed fine. The pastor was polite, and the brothers were happy to have him there. They even agreed to a rent of 150,000 naira per year. Gabriel wanted to be a good neighbor, so when the pastor asked for help, Gabriel always said yes. He did not know that this pastor was not the man he claimed to be. One day, Pastor Prince asked Gabriel for a favor. He said he was worried that people might steal the church's plastic chairs if they were left in the open hall. He asked Gabriel if he could keep the chairs inside Gabriel's own apartment for safety. Gabriel was a very trusting person and saw no reason to say no to a pastor. However, this created a big problem. Every time there was a church service, Gabriel had to be there to open his door so the members could take the chairs out. To stop this stress, Gabriel did something very risky. He gave Pastor Prince a spare key to his apartment. He thought he could trust a man of God with a key. But as soon as the pastor had that key, things began to go missing. First, it was a small internet modem. Then, their late mother's expensive clothes and wrappers disappeared. Even the food in their kitchen, like bags of rice and tins of oil, started to vanish. Gabriel realized that the thefts only started after the pastor got the key. Gabriel was a smart young man. He realized the pastor was stealing from them. He even remembered a day he showed the pastor where the rice was kept, and just a few days later, that rice was gone. Gabriel decided to take action. He changed the locks on the doors so the pastor's key would no longer work. He also went to report the pastor to the senior leaders of the church. He told them that Pastor Prince was a thief. This made the pastor very angry. Instead of being sorry, the pastor felt disgraced and held a grudge. The tension between the student and the pastor grew every day. Gabriel thought he had solved the problem by changing the locks, but he did not realize how dangerous the pastor had become. On December 18, 2020, Gabriel called his brother and said he would be staying in town to work on a project. That was the last time his family ever spoke to him. The stage was now set for a terrible crime that would shock the whole community. On Monday, December 21, 2020, the neighbors living near the church started to hear something very scary. It was the sound of a man screaming, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus," over and over again. The screams were loud and sounded like someone was in great pain or fear. The neighbors were worried, so they went to the compound and knocked on the gate. Pastor Prince came to the gate. He looked calm and told the neighbors that he was simply praying a very loud and powerful prayer. In Nigeria, many people believe that pastors pray very loudly, so the neighbors believed him. They did not push further because they respected his position. They left the gate and went back to their houses. But later that day, they saw the pastor again. He was carrying a bucket to get water, and his clothes were covered in blood. There was even blood on the bucket. When they asked him what happened, he told them he fell from the ceiling while trying to fix a church banner. He told different stories to different people, but everyone believed him because he was a pastor. Before we go any further into this dark story, I want to ask you to subscribe to our channel, Tremendous Crime in History. We tell these stories to make sure that the truth is known and that victims like Gabriel are never forgotten. By subscribing, you help us grow so we can keep researching and bringing you these important real-life events. We want to build a community that values justice and safety for everyone. If you want to stay informed about the most shocking crimes in history and learn how to protect yourself, hit that subscribe button right now. Your support means everything to us as we work to bring you the facts of these incredible cases every week. What the neighbors did not know was that the screams they heard were not prayers. They were the sounds of Gabriel Bassey Edward fighting for his life. While the neighbors were standing at the gate, Gabriel was being attacked inside. The pastor was not praying, he was killing. The blood on his clothes was not from a fall from the ceiling, it was Gabriel's blood. After the murder, the pastor spent the rest of the day trying to clean up the crime scene. He used the water in the bucket to scrub the floor of the church hall and the plastic chairs. He even moved the heavy church pulpit to cover up the bloodstains that he could not wash away. He was very calculated. He acted like everything was normal, even though a dead body was lying just a few feet away. He thought that by acting calm and using his title as a pastor, he could fool everyone in the community. For a few days, his plan actually worked. While the pastor was cleaning the blood, Gabriel's brother Emmanuel was away visiting family for Christmas. He tried to call Gabriel many times, but the phone was always switched off. Emmanuel started to feel that something was wrong. He called the neighbors, and they told him they had not seen Gabriel for days. They mentioned the prayers and the pastor's fall, but they did not think it was a murder. Emmanuel became more and more worried as the days went by. He knew his brother would not just disappear without saying anything. On December 26th, which is Boxing Day, Emmanuel decided he could not wait any longer. He traveled back to Uyo to check the house himself. He expected to find his brother sleeping or maybe busy with schoolwork. He did not know that he was walking into a nightmare that would stay with him for the rest of his life. The silence in the compound was the first sign that something was very wrong.
When Emmanuel entered the house on December 26th, he noticed a terrible smell. He walked toward the room and found a sight that no brother should ever see. Gabriel was dead. His body was already starting to decay because he had been killed 5 days earlier. It was a very violent scene. Gabriel had been cut many times with a sharp object. It was clear that he had tried to defend himself, but the attacker was too strong or had caught him by surprise. Emmanuel screamed for help, and soon the police arrived. As the police began to look around, they found the weapon used for the murder. It was a sharp chopping knife that had belonged to Gabriel's mother. This was one of the items that had gone missing weeks ago when the pastor still had the key. This proved that the pastor had stolen the knife a long time ago and kept it, perhaps waiting for the right moment to use it against Gabriel. This is a very sad part of the story, but it is important to talk about it. I want you to go to the comments section right now and write down the name of the victim, Gabriel Bassey Edward. We want to show respect to his memory. Also, write down one thing from this story that has surprised you the most so far. Is it the fact that the neighbors believed the pastor, or the fact that the murder weapon was a stolen family knife? Your comments help other people find this video and learn about this case. We want to hear your thoughts on how a community can stay safer. Please share your opinion with us below. We read every single comment you write. The police investigation quickly pointed to Pastor Prince Emmanuel Omore. There were too many clues. The neighbors told the police about the screams on Monday and the blood they saw on the pastor's bucket. When the police searched the pastor's own home, they found even more proof. They found Gabriel's personal notebook called a jotter with his name written on it. Why would a pastor have a student's private notebook in his house? They also found other small things that had been stolen from Gabriel's room. It became clear that the pastor had been entering Gabriel's room even after the locks were changed, or he had used the period before the locks were changed to plan his move. The pastor had also tried to change things in the church. On the day of the murder, He moved the chairs and told people he wanted to paint the pulpit, even though the pulpit was in good condition. He was trying to hide the blood that had splashed during the struggle. Even though there was so much evidence, getting justice was not easy. The pastor's mother was a police inspector, and people began to say that she was using her power to protect her son. At one point, the suspect was even released from custody, which made Gabriel's family and friends very angry. A famous lawyer named Inibehe Efyong started to help the family. He told the public that there was a plan to cover up the murder to save the reputation of the church and the pastor's family. The students at the University of Uyo also stepped in. They refused to let the case die. They protested and asked the government to make sure the pastor was punished. This shows how important it is for a community to stand together when someone is trying to hide the truth. Without the help of the students and the lawyers, the pastor might have walked free, despite all the blood on his hands.
Because of the pressure from the public and the university, the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly ordered a full investigation. The police had to arrest Pastor Prince again. The trial lasted for over 5 years. During the trial, the pastor tried to deny everything, but the facts were too strong. The neighbors stood in court and told the judge exactly what they heard and saw on that Monday in December. The forensic evidence showed that the blood on the church floor belonged to Gabriel. The judge, Justice Gabriel Ete, listened to everything very carefully. On February 19, 2026, he delivered his final word. He said the pastor was a cold-blooded killer who had planned the murder. He sentenced Prince Emmanuel Omore to death. The family of Gabriel cried in court, not because they were happy, but because they finally had justice after so many years of waiting and fighting against powerful people. Gabriel Bassey Edward was only 23 years old. He was killed because he was honest and because he reported a thief. His only mistake was being too kind to a man who wore a religious robe. This story tells us that we should never judge a person only by their job or their title. Just because someone is a pastor, a doctor, or a teacher does not mean they are always a good person. We must look at their actions. Gabriel's brother, Emmanuel, lost his best friend and his only brother. Their father lost a son who was supposed to take care of him in his old age. The building that was supposed to be a school is now a place where a terrible memory lives. It is a very high price to pay for a moment of misplaced trust. We must learn to listen to our neighbors and take their worries seriously. If the neighbors had entered the house on Monday instead of walking away, Gabriel might still be alive today. The take-home lesson for everyone watching is to be very careful with your security. Do not give the keys to your home to anyone, even if they seem like a good person or a religious leader. Your home is your private space, and you must protect it. Also, if you see something strange like blood on a neighbor's clothes or loud screams that do not sound like prayer, call the authorities immediately. Do not be afraid of being wrong. It is better to be wrong and have everyone be safe than to be right and find a body days later. This story is a tragedy, but we can use it to make our own lives safer. We must also support the legal system and demand that even powerful people are held responsible for their crimes. No one should be above the law, no matter who their mother is or where they work. Thank you for watching this full story on tremendous crime in history. We hope this retelling of Gabriel's story helps you stay alert and aware of the world around you. Gabriel was a hero in his own way for standing up against theft, and we hope his family continues to find peace. If you want to see more stories about real-life crimes and the history behind them, please make sure you have liked this video. Share this story with your friends and family to teach them about the importance of safety and the dangers of blind trust. Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us for our next episode. We appreciate every one of you for being part of our channel. Stay safe, look out for one another, and always seek the truth.